our behaviors are so destructive, we are going to be forced to change if we don't get inspired to change first. The problem is a disease, and I call it the disease of disconnect. Because if you're disconnected from the planet, which many of us now are, you can destroy it and not realize that you're destroying your very own self. We are not just living on this planet. We come from this planet. We live with this planet. We are one of so many species that come together in this place we call home, called Earth. If you're disconnected from a person, you can drop a bomb on them and call them a statistic and not feel that they're a human being too, and that when we use any form of violence, a piece of our soul has to die in order to do that. So whatever that movement is that's calling us, it is about healing that disease of disconnect, bringing back what we've always known but forgotten, that we are truly one. One of the places that disconnect shows up first is in ourselves. Because if we recognized ourself as part of the larger self, the disconnect wouldn't be there. So in order to be disconnected to the larger self, we have to already have some disconnect within ourselves already. So it starts there, where we become disconnected to our authentic self, and we then do things that are incredibly destructive and harmful. I am an addict. I had a really difficult childhood, and I was very sensitive since the day I came out of my mother's womb. I just was born one of those ultra-sensitive kids. And I didn't have the tools to process being so sensitive in such a violent world. I experienced a lot of violence growing up. And I turned to drugs and alcohol to self-medicate because I didn't have any other tools in my toolbox on how to manage being so sensitive in such a destructive world. And as a result of going through that journey myself, I now see that most people in industrialized societies are addicts. And the reason I know this is because addicts don't change unless they're forced to change or inspired to change. And usually when an addict who's not yet ready to change is confronted for their addiction, they say, "I'm fine, you're the one with the problem." And so if you look at our society doing all these things that we know are destructive, polluting the air, polluting the water, causing unprecedented climate change since the last major extinction, all these things that are clearly harmful things, and yet we defend our huge SUVs. We defend our shopping addictions. We defend our food addictions. We actually have systems in place to make sure that we stay addicted to them. Yeah. We have systems that make it easy to be an addict. It's very difficult to become not an addict in today's society. So I think that it's like we really are living as addicts, and we're living with the results of that addiction, and it's very, very harmful. And my work is I try to help people be inspired to change, because one way or the other we're going to have to.
So actually it's like you have this disconnection that makes us into addicts because we don't want to feel the disconnection.
Yes.
And by being an addict we keep disconnecting.
Yes.
That's the thing. Because you protected Luna, the redwood, from cutting by this company Pacific Lumber. And sometimes I become a bit confused, like, because with Luna it was like you protect the tree from this company, and now you have climate change, and that's caused by the oil and gas companies, by your own consumption, by deforestation. Like, what is the tree to protect now, symbolically? And where do we start, and who do we fight?
I started a project called What's Your Tree? And it is symbolic. It's to help people find their own tree. So for some people it will be an actual tree, but for other people it's symbolically, what is it in your life that calls you and causes you to be bigger than you know yourself to be? So what's most important is for each one of us to find our most authentic self, and then be willing to stretch outside our comfort zone to find our tree, whatever that is, to climb up in it, to sit in it even when it's difficult, when the winds are raging, when people, in my instance, were actually trying to kill me, like whatever the adversities come, to stick with it and to grow as a result, win or lose. And then when it's time, come down find the next tree, and go climb that.
Yeah.
When you think about a woman who lived in a tree for 2 years, it seems so extraordinary in a weird way. Like, it is kind of funny. I tell people, I'm like, it is kind of funny. I lived in a tree for 2 years, you know? Like, it's kind of crazy. So for some people, it disempowers them because they think I'm crazy. For other people, it disempowers them because they think, well, I could never do that.
Yeah.
But I remind people, on December 10th, 1997, when I stood at the base of Luna and looked up, I could never have done that either.
Yeah.
Like, I was, in my mind, I was not the girl who could go through what I went through. So I don't want people comparing themselves to me. I do want people to see me as a human being and say, well, if that person could do that, what can I do? And I don't know what that is for you, but I want you to find it, and I want you to do it, because our world needs it desperately.
Yeah. But there's also a difference, like, not everyone will climb in a tree for 2.5 years, you know?
Right.
Like, so I'm trying to figure out what is reasonable to ask from ourselves to do.
I personally feel that the most important thing to ask ourselves is, what do we love to do, and start doing that. And find a way to offer that to making a positive contribution. Because if we just tell people what we should do, it's really like creating a to-do list. And I remind people, everyone I know, including myself, has had something fall off my to-do list more than once. Right? So if we create a to-do list about caring for the earth and caring for each other, that means things are going to fall off the list. But when we come from an authentic place of what we love and look for ways to express that, that's what lasts. That's what gives us the fuel to keep going in the face of the pain that will arise. Like, if you care in the world today, it is the second most courageous thing you're going to do. The first most courageous thing you're going to do is find a way to turn that care into action.
Yeah.
But to just care in the world today is a courageous act. So we want, I tell people, like, I don't want to give you yet another to-do list. We've had these to-do lists for a long time. Why isn't it working better?
Yeah.
Because we're not getting it into our heart. So for me, I want to get people to drop into their heart and take inspired, loving action for the world, because that's the kind of actions that are really going to last. And those are the kind of actions that are going to transform. They're not just going to fix something. They're going to transform it. They're going to help heal the disease. And that, for me, is what I feel really called to get people to feel into, not just think about. Do we have what it takes to make the change necessary to help heal the wounds we've created in the earth and on each other, to be able to survive and hopefully one day thrive? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball that's telling me the future. What I know is that the only possibility for something to exist out there that I want to see has to exist in here first. If I want to see more love in the world, I have to hold myself accountable to a higher standard of love than I would like to sometimes. You know? Because I sometimes want to be a grumpy, mean you-know-what. I don't want to be loving. You've made me mad yet again. I can't stand people, blah, blah, blah. You know, I have those kind of days. If I want to see peace in the world, then I have to resolve the conflicts I have in my heart and in my thoughts on a daily basis.
What do you think is the biggest challenge to transformation in our world?
I think the biggest challenge to transformation is just fear, really. Fear of the unknown holds a lot of people back. We will stay in something that is highly detrimental and destructive. Our souls are dying. People aren't happy. They have lots of stuff, but they're hardly ever happy. But they will stay in that comfortable, unhappy zone because it's comfortable. Because the fear of something new is overwhelming. And sadly, it has been shown with many animals. An animal that's kept caged from the time it was born, at some point, if it's released, it won't even leave the cage because it's so afraid of what's outside of the cage. It doesn't understand what it is like to live not in a cage. We've lived in a cage that constricts our soul, that constricts our heart, that constricts our potential for so long that even if someone comes and opens the door to that cage, the fear of the unknown, or the fear of what it's going to take, the fear of, it's going to demand courage. I don't know if I have that in me. The fear of not being smart enough, not being rich enough, not having enough time. the not enough conversation that's so much a part of industrialized, production-driven societies. That not enough conversation kills us off half the time before we ever even start. So my hope is that enough of us will be inspired to be a part of the transformation. And again, it's going to happen one way or the other. It's just, if we can make the change before we're forced to, it's going to cause a lot less pain and suffering. Because the longer we wait to do the things we need to do, the more people die, the more animals go extinct, the more water becomes polluted. One way or the other, we are going to be forced to change. We cannot survive. We literally cannot survive with what we've been doing.
So what would be your message for young people?
I think one of the things that always comes through me is believe in your dreams and your power to change the world. Stop believing in other people's dreams. Like, I go there because I just see so many people who are afraid to follow their dreams, and so they'll attach themselves to somebody else's. And there's something magical in our dreams, of our vision of what's possible. So believe in that, but also then believe in your power to change the world. That means you are the one responsible for your dreams, nobody else. Live it, breathe it, go for it. Remember that you're not alone. Reach out for support. Build community as part of your vision. That was a hard one for me. I'm so insular, I'm so introverted that I have a hard time with community. And yet I'm clear that everything I've been able to do, including living for 2 years and 8 days in a tree, was directly related to community. So think about how to integrate community as part of your vision and your dream. Make sure and have fun. The issues we face are not funny and they're not fun. But every time we take a breath, a miracle happens. Don't forget the magic. Enjoy the magic, enjoy the journey as you give it your all to manifest whatever it is your dream into reality.